to the Realm Kast. I am the Mortal Kombat fan, Tim, and with me as always is our lore master, Yanni. Welcome, Yanni.
Thanks, Phantom.
Today we have another lore master with us, King Jared's official historian, History Behind the Warrior. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So, Warrior, let me ask you some questions here. First of all, how has Mortal Kombat kind of affected you? I mean, you have your successful YouTube channel, but besides that, in your personal life, how did you kind of get down this path where you're making these amazing videos now?
It's pretty wild. I never thought that a video game could change so much of my life in such a short amount of time. Because basically, growing up, I wasn't exposed to video games. My parents were like super against it. But I remember one day when I was like, I must have been 6 or 7 years old, so I was pretty young. I was watching television and the Mortal Kombat movie came on. I only watched a slight snippet of it because, mind you, I was very young. So I saw the scene of Sub-Zero freezing that guy after he's like flexing like a crazy guy and blow up. And my parents like, nope, we aren't watching this. But I was like mesmerized. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So it kind of like sparked this interest in the back of my mind of what Mortal Kombat is. And of course, growing up, I was always like super interested with Mortal Kombat, but I didn't have a console growing up. Like, I didn't actually have a console till I was 16 or 17.
Oh, wow.
You know? Yeah, I know, because my parents were like super against it. Fun fact, my father said to me, you're not allowed to get a console whilst you're in school.
Oh.
So when I went to college at 16, I was like, you should have read the fine print.
I thought it was bad enough for me not being able to play except on the weekends, but wow, that's a step further with you.
Yeah, so he ended up doing that, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm doing this. But beforehand, what happened was I went on like a holiday to my cousin's house all the way up in Scotland, and we played a little bit of Mortal Kombat. I wasn't very good. I was just kind of getting to know it, but I was pretty mesmerized by what was going on, the characters and designs, because it was actually Mortal Kombat Deception, funny enough. I was playing it, I was getting to know it, and I was like, all these characters look really cool, but I have no idea what I'm doing. So as the years kind of passed by, there was this subconscious love for the series that all came to like a spark when Mortal Kombat 9 was released, because I saw it and I was like, so this is really cool. And they're going back to 2D, which is something, I've been really interested in because I was watching the Mortal Kombat movies, seeing what was going on, and I read up on the lore, and I was really interested. So when Mortal Kombat 9 came out, I went to my friend and got my friend's mom to buy me the game. So I owned the game and I played the game when I was at his. So I didn't really I had the game for a while. It's only up until I got a console where I started playing the game, kind of understanding it on a basic level. But then when I kind of was in college, I did play games a lot. But when I went to university, I didn't have any of that. But at university, I wasn't really happy with the subject I was doing because I was originally, I'm actually a producer. I'm a musician. That's my background.
Right.
I specialized in that field, but the problem was that university wasn't teaching me anything that I didn't already know, and I was effectively wasting my time. And because of this, I was stuck in a room all day, listening to music, listening to pretty insufferable people for the most part. So I was just kind of like, let me do something with my time. And I started to get back into gaming. And then I saw this trailer reveal for Mortal Kombat X, and I was like, you know what, I'll develop a form of interest in this. And as the months passed by, I started to see all these characters and all this gameplay. And I was like, this is so cool. I want to do something with this. And Lord and behold, I made my first ever video in a university room with, let me bring this terrible microphone. I've still got my first microphone. It was a C1 condenser microphone and a Scarlett 2i2 sound card. And I recorded it and basically edited, my first video, which was a Scorpion video, all in like the span of one day, I'd say. Like, I've written out an entire script beforehand because I wanted to give it a go. But I taught myself how to edit, and I already used Logic to record audio. So I did all of that, and people really liked it. And I was like, who knows? I'll release another video, and if people really like it, I'll keep doing it. And Lord and behold, I did the video on Ferrotor, I got a lot of traction, then the Kenshi one and the Sub-Zero one, and it just came one after another. And it got to the point where I was looking at what I was doing at university and what I was doing with my content, and I was like, I don't need to be here. I'm wasting my time by being here. So I left university to pursue content creation full time, and
Wow.
it was pretty crazy. My parents 110% did not have faith in me. I remember my earliest paycheck I earned like it was £400 or £600. That was after 5 months of content creation. So it wasn't a lot of money, mind you, but it was still money all the same. And I was like, there could be a career here. And I kind of just picked up the ball and kept going forward and wanting to broaden my horizons with touching on games like Tekken and Street Fighter and Soul Calibur. You know, games I grew up around but never really played too much to say this is what sparked my love for fighting games. It was just they were there and they always caught my eye. But after I left university, I started doing more and more content. And luckily, over the course of time, I accumulated 100,000, which was an incredible feat. And then I kept going. And then I started making friends in the YouTube community. And of course, predominantly these days for me, the fighting game community, because a lot of the newer upcoming players who kind of existed from X onwards watched my content and, you know, how do I put this? Achieved very big accolades in their career. So by the time I've kind of moved into MK11, there are some faces that do recognize me, which is extremely flattering. And because I went to Evo last year, I went to Combo Breaker last year, so I was able to meet a few of the US fans who watch my content, which I do deeply appreciate. And it was a real pleasure being able to meet them in person. It was a very humbling experience. And then from there, after kind of traveling to the US as a competitor and competing a little bit in Europe for Mortal Kombat 11, I decided to actually break into commentary. And I've actually been a commentator for the European scene since May. And I've been very fortunate to land a fair few big jobs. Like I was a commentator for Ultimate Fighting Arena last year in I think it was September, actually. So I was able to travel out to Paris to commentate that. On top of this, I was able to do the Intercontinental Cup finals on 3 different occasions. So I was able to do the Middle East, Europe, and Australia. And then I was invited out to the finals of all of the people that participated in that online cup in, was it DreamHack Sweden, November? So I was able to meet basically all my peers. So I was able to meet people like Foxy Grandpa, Wasminator, Do Basic, a lot of people I grew up watching like play very high level during the period of Mortal Kombat X's existence. And from there, it's just kind of been smooth sailing. Of course, right now in the current world and status, like it's not like we can really go out and commentate right now. It's mostly online cups, mind you.
Not right now, no.
But yeah, no, I've been able to do that, and it's been pretty crazy. It's all stemmed from Mortal Kombat, and I think it's kind of, I wouldn't say poetic justice, but I think it's incredible that my parents did everything they could to have me not like be completely consumed by video games, and it's effectively my job and my living now.
Oh, I say it's poetic justice. I'm with you on that.
It's funny how many guests we have come on here who have started off with saying, yeah, the game was banned in my personal life, and now look at where I'm at.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy to me.
So what actually was the first Mortal Kombat game you ended up playing?
So first ever one I ever touched, it was Mortal Kombat Deception.
Okay.
Deception was the first game I ever played, but again, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I never actually touched the Conquest mode. I just played through all of the extra game modes and tried to get a gist of the combo system, because for the most part it was like the first time I touched a fighting game, so I was just kind of like mashing my face against the buttons pretty much. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, oh, that's really cool, but it doesn't make any sense. Sure, let's do it.
I find it very interesting that you didn't go into Conquest mode, and yet now you're known as, History Behind the Warrior, which is all about the lore. And Conquest is synonymous with that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I wasn't really aware of it when I was younger, and when I picked up the game, because I knew very, very little about Mortal Kombat before I touched Deception. I only knew it as the game with the 2 different colored ninjas, and there were fatalities for the most part. So I was pretty obscure to it. But when I started playing the game, I was like, wow, this is so excessive. I love it.
So what ended up being your favorite game?
Favorite game for sure? It's always going to have a very special place with me. It's definitely going to have to be Mortal Kombat X. X was the birthplace of my channel, my competitive career, effectively, and what I learned fighting games. That's where all my knowledge of fighting games and where I really started. Because before that, like, I'm going to sound like a complete dolt and sinner to some of the people who are listening to this, but I was like, oh, look at me, I'm so sick. I can do 2 button presses into a special move. And then I watched Fatal Away and watched Ketchup EX and enhance all these combos and extend everything. And I'm like, I'm a scrub. So I was like, I want to learn that. I want to learn how to do that. So I ended up just learning your basic bread and butter combos. And of course, like, MKX is known for its really, really flashy gameplay. So I was learning all of this stuff. And then along the way, I was like, what's all this talk about, like, tech and all this gameplay? And then you start to learn all these different layers to fighting games, like throw teching and, OTGs, setups, Okizeme, Ukemis, and stuff like that. And I was like, there's an entire world to this, and I've missed it. So I ended up just like exploring that side, and it all stemmed from literally a chance and me playing MKX. It's crazy. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Out of all the games, then, who is your favorite character?
That's always the really hard question, because I get it a lot. And I never really have a proper answer because it always changes.
That's fair enough. Totally understandable in this series.
Yeah.
The thing is as well, I'm always kind of learnt to be kind of impartial with favoritism because I'm a content creator. It's like I try to be unison. Unless it's Su Hao, then
best character, right? What?
I will purposely rip into that character. But the character I always go to play has always been Sub-Zero, but he's never been my favorite character. I think right now, and I think it may also be because of his absence, I have a real soft spot for Takeda. He has all the ingredients for something quite special. It's just ultimately, I will say it, I don't feel he's been utilized in a way that's really good for the potential he does have.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
Totally agree.
I think he's probably my favorite character out of MKX, to be honest.
Yeah, of all new characters, for sure.
I like a lot of the new characters, to be fair. There's only a few I don't enjoy. I'm not too fond of Devora. I've never been too big on her. I like her design and her idea. I think that's really cool. I love the concept of the chitins because they're basically the xenomorphs from Alien. That's how they kind of function. I think that's really cool. I love Kotal, but he's basically like a less cool Shao Kahn, and a more humble version, which really sucks because he loses as much without really earning much. And I'm just kind of like, I want to like you, man.
I always think of him as the South American Shao Kahn.
You know what? That's actually really good. Takeda basically ticks all my boxes for what I wanted in the character. Cassie, I loved. I really enjoyed Cassie for MKX. I wasn't too fond of, like, to be fair, I don't feel like it's Cassie Cage problem, but it's more so like a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. Was it X beats Y type of thing? And I'm just kind of like, it makes sense. Not too keen on it, but it makes sense. I liked what he did with her in X. I'm not too pleased with her characterization in 11. I feel like she's been very watered down.
Would you not say that's the case with most of the characters, though? It seems like they've tried to stick to a certain sort of stereotype for every single one and then just roll with it for the intros.
I'd say, yeah, in a certain way. I definitely agree with that. I wouldn't say it's watered down. I'd say it's an unnecessary form of generalization of how people are. It's just it's very basic because it's kind of like, oh look, it's Scorpion. He's the angry man that refuses to die, and there's like stuff like that, and I'm just kind of like, there's so much more you can do with them. Like,
oh yeah,
Cassie despite how she was written in the main story, her character naturally has always oozed this snarky, smart-ass personality, and it was the main appeal of her outside of, her gameplay. It was one of her defining traits, and then we get her in 11 when she has an interaction with Spawn, and I'm queen of shit, fuck, mountain, whatever. It's like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say to me? It's like, are you swearing for the sake of it? Like, you have more personality than this, which breaks my heart because I love the voice actress Erica Lindbeck. Like, she's hilarious.
Yeah, I think she's great.
Like, they didn't really give Cassie anything to do, and I'm just kind of like,
In MKX, she felt more like a daughter to me than she does in 11. Yes. 11, it's just like you guys said.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the most part. I hope in whatever future that the series has, because it's still kind of unclear to me now, they kind of get back to the basics in that sense of her character, because they don't need to add so many layers to her. Sometimes simple is better.
And speaking about the future, we have the Aftermath preview. I don't know about you guys, but I am extremely excited about this. And I've already got my pre-orders in for 2 different consoles.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Aftermath. I'm intrigued. I'm kind of on the fence here with it because I'm really looking forward to the story content of things, but I don't know how the new character, how I feel about new characters, because I like Fujin. Sheeva, I don't really mind her being there. Robocop, I can't really say I'm invested in him. I don't think he's like terrible. He's like I'll put it like this in a very polite way, because I don't hate him. He's just that guest character who's part of the pack for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna play him.
I'm not gonna touch him at all,
because I'm not interested enough in him.
He's just there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, from like what I've read of what they've basically told us, is that he's like really keep away. Like super keep away heavy as well, so I'm just kind of like,
oh great,
this is
another one.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, this is not the way to win people over with a guest character in that respect, because if we've learned anything from like Deadshot or Cetrion, God forbid, like that, watching keep away gameplay is not exactly enticing. Like even as someone who commentates it, anytime I have to commentate a Cetrion match, it's like squeezing blood from a stone. It's like I'm trying to.
Oh, ground slam! Oh, look at the boulder! Oh, ground slam again!
Like, don't get me wrong, ground slam's pretty cool if you like, because of course that's a special move that you can cancel. So there's a mix up to it that's really interesting.
True, yeah.
But the problem is that no one plays that variation. Everyone plays Force of Nature Cetrion, where it's Rising Geyser, Boulder. That's was it? Because the boulder by itself, if it hits you and you don't flawless block it, it jails into Geyser, so you have to hold it. So I'm just kind of like, this is I can only do so much.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to Aftermath. Might be good.
Let's talk about Fujin. I mean, how many years has it been since he's been in a Mortal Kombat game?
14.
Oh, that's a long time.
Since Armageddon.
Wow.
And that's not even including the fact that he was he technically did, but was meant to replace Radin.
Yeah.
With Radin returning anyway.
Yeah. Poor Fujin. He got it pretty bad. It's like, I'm now what is it? Protector of Earthrealm, and we don't even get like an in-between segment, it just cuts to Deadly Alliance, and he's just gone out there.
I will not fail you, Radin. Disappears.
We have a lot of listeners who probably don't know who Fujin is just because it's been so long.
I think that since we have history behind the warrior on here, we should let him kick us off, and I'll jump in.
All right, yeah, no, let's jump in right out the gate. It's funny enough because I've actually recorded the history of video for him, so it's all quite fresh in my mind. So Fujin, for the most part, he was quite an irregular character in that respect. Unlike a majority of characters who derive from the main installments, Fujin does come from Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, which served as a preceding game to Mortal Kombat 4. And in this game, one of the main objectives was to, I believe it was after obtaining the Scroll of Elements and finding the temple, you had to go and obtain Shinnok's amulet. But by doing so, you'd have to fight 4 different elemental guardians. I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, it was fire, water, earth, and wind. I could be wrong about that.
That is correct.
But wind was obviously definitely one of them, and that was Fujin. And I think many people right out the gate didn't really think much of him because he did presumably die at the end of that fight, but
To his own
yeah, I know
tornado.
the irony. It's he harakiri'd himself before it was even a thing.
I didn't even realize he was in Mythologies. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. No, he was there. That's why he made his first appearance.
Mythologies was meant to sort of lead into Mortal Kombat 4 with new characters. So Fujin, Quan Chi, Shinnok, and then even Serena, who actually got dropped from Mortal Kombat 4 before release.
Yeah, she didn't become playable again up until Armageddon.
Oh, no, she was... Okay, I do agree with you. That is technically true.
Oh wait, was she in the
But
Unchained?
she wasn't Unchained, which I don't even count.
That's fair. That's fair. But after that, he kind of died for a little bit, but recovered from his wounds in heaven, as far as I'm aware, and then resurfaced in Mortal Kombat 4, where Shinnok had planned his massive assault across the realms, started invading everything, including heaven. So knocked him back down. He had to work with Radin and Liu Kang, and together they defeated, the fallen elder god Shinnok. And from there, he became Earthrealm's protector for about 5 minutes before getting thrown in the blender. And then Radin stepped in, and then he disappeared again for 2 more games, coming back in Armageddon, where he was kind of given the job of fixing corrupted Radin. But we never really see much from it due to the time constraints and funding of how Armageddon was. Because obviously, big roster doesn't mean you can kind of get to everyone in that sense.
True.
So even from there, he makes a very small appearance in the conquest mode of the game, where he's in fact a family friend of Argus, and he tries to consult with Taven and Dagon. Of course, he meets Taven because Taven is the main character, tries to stop him in his quest to, kind of hash things out, fix things, but Taven isn't having any of it.
He's actually realized that Taven's quest has gone dark.
Yeah, it's gone horribly.
He's trying to explain things to him and to stop him from progressing with things.
Yeah.
But he gets defeated by Taven.
That one track hit any of mine, man. But yeah, of course that fails, which brings us up to the end of the original timeline with the Battle of Armageddon and presumably everyone dying. And then we have the rebooted timeline where Fujin he exists there to a lesser effect, of course, making a very small cameo in Mortal Kombat X during Shinnok's invasion once more. He then serves a very minor role in the MKX comic book series, which brings us up to where we are now with Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. So we are basically, it looks like he's going to have a front and center role. So hopefully we can see more going on with him instead of him being the Diet Raiden.
I was really surprised that they didn't actually make him a DLC for MKX.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of expected that when they saw him in story mode, that eventually he would come out as part of one of those packages. But I think fans are extremely excited to see him coming out with 11 now.
Oh, definitely. He looks exceptional.
You've even got players who never cared for Fujin saying, "Oh, you're all just going with the flow," and now they're suddenly into Fujin, and everybody has realized Fujin is awesome. I think he looks amazing, and from what I've seen of his gameplay, I'm extremely excited to play him.
Yeah, no, it's very flashy. Very flashy.
What does it seem that he's going to have with this new gameplay? I mean, of course, the wind abilities are going to be there, but have you guys seen anything else that we're expecting or hoping for?
Well, from what I'm aware, because of course we haven't seen really too much, he does utilize a sword now instead of his bow staff, which I found quite interesting. He seemingly has that and a crossbow on his hip, which I didn't realize I didn't see it properly till the other day, where someone sent me a recently rendered picture of him and I saw it on his hip. I was like, oh, there it is, because you do see a little bit of it in his fatal blow. But I'm intrigued to see how he plays. Honestly, judging by his animations and seeing how they kind of work and function, I think he's going to share some similarities to Kenshi. Of how he's utilizing the sword and throwing it forward and manipulating it with the wind. I want to see how that kind of works. It looks really interesting.
Do you remember Kenshi's MK9 X-Ray?
Yes.
That's exactly what it reminds me of. All of his sword moves specifically remind me of that.
Yeah. Because, of course, he's got the rising karma. He's got what we saw with... I think there's 2 still images of him. One where it looks like he's performing a grab. And another one where...
The one he's blasting away Shang Tsung?
Yeah, it looks like Kenshi's force push.
Yes, it does look very similar.
Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see how he works here. I just want to see how he plays, honestly, because he looks very fluid.
Mhm.
And I'm all about that crazy anime character life where everything looks so ridiculous. It's insane. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Fujin plays. I think it could be...
It looks like we're getting that with him. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really, really am.
I am curious to see how they'll utilize the crossbow. Now, you did mention the bow staff, and I'm a bit surprised that everybody is mentioning the bow staff because he's technically never actually used it. He's only received it from Radin.
Yeah.
Whereas in Armageddon, he actually used a sword.
Yeah, no, that is true. Did he use one in MKX in the very brief cutscene he was in?
Possibly, that could be why.
Yeah, because I think that's the reason why, because it's kind of fresh in everyone's memory. I could be wrong about that.
You might be right, yeah. That could be it. That would make a lot of sense, actually.
But yeah, that's what I think it's all kind of stemmed from. I think I'm trying to go over it in my head, and I know he's wielding a weapon in it. I'm not sure what it is. That's the hazy part. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with him. Hopefully, even if he doesn't have like a bow staff in his main move, it may be a type of like a Robin Injustice 2 type of thing, where they have it as like a custom move, or like with a Scorpion when he has his sword stance.
Yes, you could be right, actually. And you're right, while we're talking, I did check. He did have a staff on his back.
There we go. Yeah, that's why it's
that
fresh in
explains
everyone's
a lot.
mind.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, man.
I'm excited to see he's got his ponytail back.
And not only that, it's actually done in a way which it looks like a tornado.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't
It's
realize
not braided. Now, they have confirmed that Radin and Fujin are brothers.
Oh, so they are adding that in now as an actual thing.
They have, yeah. Wow. Until now, that was only said in the Mortal Kombat 4 strategy guide. It was never actually addressed in game. So that's pretty interesting.
That is interesting. I wonder how that really works amongst the gods. Are they like,
right?
Are they just relatives as in like creation only? Because of course, like Ermac and Melina technically aren't bound by blood, but they are considered children, and
yes,
of Shao Kahn in that sense. I want to see how that turns out. It's actually quite an interesting point.
The way I think about it is that if you look at Kronika with Cetrion and Shinnok, I feel like if they are considered her children as well as siblings, it could just be that as a Titan, she's created them, and that's why they're siblings.
Yeah, it would make sense, because obviously the Titans are precursors, effectively, to the Elder Gods. But I want to see how all that goes, because it interests me. Like, the whole concept of Titans really does interest me. I do think, like, they kind of faltered not expanding on them in this game, because there's a lot of potential. A lot of potential of Titans.
I wonder if we're going to get a Titan parent for Fujin and Radin now.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be interesting, yeah.
That'd be really cool.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the Titans at all, to be honest. I actually think that they have, as a result of even being created for this game, have retconned so much of the existing lore. But
yeah, no,
if they can explain things, then I'm curious to see which direction they would take it in.
Because the only reason, like, I like the Titans, or the idea of the Titans, is the fact that we've had Elder Gods for 25 years, and the most they've ever done is nothing. So I'm just kind of like, the first time we get like a proper Elder God that's playable in the game, she gets beaten up in the first fight by Jackie with Power Crown. And I'm just kind of like, and I'm supposed to hold you guys at a high esteem. So to me, I'm just kind of like, they haven't really done anything for so long. I want something that does something, you know?
Yes.
Like, to be fair, it's kind of unfair for me to say that with Cetrion, because, my god, I love Cetrion, but why was she the way she was in the story? There's so much, like, if you just...
They had to big up Jackie, right? Not Cetrion. Sorry, every time Jackie comes up, I kind of hate on her. I'm sorry. It's just a thing.
Don't worry. I think we all hate on, that Cassie and her +1 friend that made it into the party.
I was actually, like you mentioned earlier, I was actually a fan of Cassie in a way. Like, I do not like the Special Forces at all. I think that they are dragging the story down. Mm-hmm. And I still liked Cassie.
Yeah.
But Jackie just felt like, as you just said, +1 and Jax 2.0.
Yeah. Jackie hasn't done enough to come out of her shell for me to even really consider her a character.
Thank you. It wasn't me, guys. He said it.
She's just Jax's daughter, and I feel like that's in name alone. Her name just gets her in. Like, we know she's a kickboxer. Cool. What has she done?
Well, she's also Takeda's girlfriend. Just
Fiance.
Oh, that's right. You're engaged now.
Yeah.
So who do we care more about? Jackie, who's done nothing, or Takeda and Kenshi, who have an amazing plot with the Red Dragon?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's just it's hard for me to get behind a character and enjoy what they're all about when they're giving me nothing to really like about them in that sense, you know?
Exactly. And it's weird because they're still forcing her, and yet we still feel this way.
Yeah, and it's not like Jackie has like a vibrant, quick-witted personality to get behind. Like, it's just kind of like, I punch and I kick, and I have really obnoxious variations in this game. Like me, please. And
intros and outros.
Yeah, I mean,
in regards to being obnoxious.
Yeah, it's hard for me to want to like her because she does have the pedigree, I suppose, but pedigree doesn't equal success.
I agree. And to everybody listening, that was our Hate on Jackie segment for this episode. Now then, back to the good characters. So we're getting Sheeva.
Mm-hmm.
And is this a new role of her being Sindel's guardian, or is that something that was introduced in one of the previous games, Mortal Kombat 9 or X, perhaps? I think it was.
I think it's existed in older games because my history of Sheeva is kind of sketchy at the moment. Because to be honest, I've never been invested enough in Sheeva to retain any information about the character, I'd say.
No, fair enough. I don't blame you. She has always been Sindel's personal protector.
No, because I've never minded Sheeva. I've never been too invested in her as a character. I like the position that she earned through the comics. I think that's really cool. At least they've given her something to do instead of, being rendered to Cabal. Effectively. No offense, Cabal. I love you, man, but God.
We all love Cabal, but that's not Cabal in 11, in my opinion.
It's something. It's something. I don't know. Cabal's a very strange one, but I like that they've done something with Sheeva. I can't say I'm too invested in her personally, but I'm glad that at least doing something with a character that I feel many have felt hasn't been represented in the correct light for a long time, because she's always been kind of an antagonist, and I suppose a jobber in that respect. So at least she's in a position now where we can see a little bit more of her and see what she's all about. And we've never had a Shogun in this type of role before, which I think is really neat.
That is true, yeah.
I like what they did with her in the story mode for Mortal Kombat 11, but I'm more interested in Aftermath to see what her role is with Sindel and see if they kind of backtrack on any of the recent retcons that they've made with Sindel.
Or enforce.
Yeah, either way.
Or reinforce.
Yeah. Because now both those characters are going to be canon rather than just guest characters.
Yeah, I'm still I'm intrigued to see the dynamic of Sindel and Sheeva, especially with the whole Sindel stuff, because that is like that stuff pretty much was a boiling volcano, because of course we had like the somewhat leaks and stuff like that, and I knew about it really early on, and I was kind of like, I need to see this to believe it, and God forbid I did see it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the way how Sindel looks and plays in this game. I think
I agree.
I think she's incredible.
Oh yeah,
I think they've done an amazing job with her, which is a shame when we then take into account her lore counterpart, because of course this is throwing away a lot of pre-established, canon, which is a shame.
Yes.
So I want to see if they've been able to change all of that, because you must keep in mind as well that we've had a few months since her release, and of course, we have actors coming in to do mocap, facial capture, and do all their voice lines, because the people that do the facial capture also aren't the same as the voice actors, so they're always separate people. So I don't know if NRS have been able to do anything about it. I hope they have been able to, for the sake of, longtime fans, or at least people who are familiar or acknowledge the character, because I can't say I'm a big Sindel fan personally, but I've always enjoyed her inclusions,
You did mention the whole thing about Sheeva being queen and everything, and that's great. I'm happy to see her in this position. But one thing that does worry me is this newfound importance that they're placing upon her being the first queen.
Yeah.
Because this was never really a point that was, well, necessary until now. Sheeva has always been respected as a warrior within the Shokuns.
Yeah, to me, I've never really. This might be slightly a little bit on the nose. Well, I say slightly bit on the nose. I've always considered the Shogun a very, very simple, somewhat brute force race that kind of respects more power than they do brains. So I feel like in that sense, honestly, they shouldn't really care about it.
Exactly.
I mean, to get the title of Queen of the Shogun, she literally had to run through a gauntlet, beating the piss out of people in her way. So to me, I'm just kind of like, does this really matter? She beat out people to get there. To me, it's just, I don't know, man. I've seen it, and I'm just kind of like, there's no reason for this being here.
There's no point.
Yeah.
It feels like they're sort of stealing a bit from Kintaro. Now, for the listeners who don't know, the Shokuns seem to discriminate against the Tigrar Shokuns, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Warrior? Yeah. So I could, like, I understand that because firstly, it's been the case since Mortal Kombat 3, but it seems like they're just dragging this sort of part of the lore and fitting it to Sheeva to be politically correct, and that's unnecessary at this point in time. Sheeva is a character that, while I myself do not care for, there are many who do love her, and she has always been considered, as we just said, a powerful warrior in the Shokuns, especially by Shao Kahn.
Yeah.
And she's always been the main Shogun that's playable. So, I mean, that kind of holds a special place for most players because it's their first time to be able to play a four-armed character in these games rather than having to fight them.
Yeah, no.
Although we did have Goro and X, but yes, you are right.
Yeah, no, that's true. I want to see what they do with it. I understand there's a lot of political touching for Mortal Kombat 11, which is a shame for the most part. For me personally, I want those things separate. I don't like politics touching my video games. So I hope that it's not heavy-handed stuff. I really, really hope it's not the case, because I still am going to like Sheeva regardless of whatever stuff they do. It's just, please don't be up in my face. Please don't be like... Yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So, Warrior, you have a great video that you just dropped, kind of breaking down a full analysis of the Aftermath trailer.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, not to step on that at all, but we should jump into a little bit and kind of discuss everything we've seen so far, which isn't a whole lot, but it's enough to definitely get everybody excited.
Yeah, we've been able to kind of like piece bits and bobs of the story together. We're not entirely too sure right now how things are going to turn out, but there's enough to work with that we have an idea of what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. Like, we know that although I say we know, we don't really know. It's implied that apparently Sindel's perished between X to 11. Not too sure as to how she died, as she was a revenant. But
exactly.
We obviously see her revitalization in the Soul Chamber and in the trailer itself.
Yeah.
This, of course, with Sheeva. So Sheeva joins the crew at some point in time. But what I'm honestly extremely interested is the kind of whole dynamic of the team that's going on here. It's like a Suicide Squad type of thing. It's a bunch of characters you wouldn't expect to ever get put together, have been put together to do a job that could pretty much lead to their downfall. And I love the dynamic as well, that it's Fujin and Shang Tsung basically leading the charge. And the idea of being able to propel Fujin into this position, really good for the character. And I'm so happy that we get to have Kari Tagawa as Shang Tsung again.
Oh, yes.
Like, in the main role. Like, it's incredible to me. I love how far we've come away with, like, being able to do mocap and face capture. It's so cool to me, man.
It really is.
The new story seems like a heist movie also.
Yeah.
They got a mission. We're going back in time, stealing the crown. This is the team.
Mm-hmm. It's the conflicting personalities that I feel are really going to help flesh out the story.
Mm-hmm.
And judging by the voice acting so far, that sounds like it's going to be amazing just based on that, because Fujin sounds wow, firstly, and then Kari Tagawa has done a great job with Shang Tsung, as we've already heard. And I mean, all the characters coming together, it's going to be pretty awesome, I think. I just really hope the direction they take is one that is fitting.
I'll say it because I know some people will probably not like it. I'd like to see Shang Tsung get a W here at the end of the story. I'd love him to get the crown, and I'd love him to kind of twist history in his own perspective. I feel like that'd be really cool.
Oh, I'd love that.
I'm sure at some point he's going to stab everybody in the back and get his hands on it.
It's in his nature.
You say that, though, but he's the only one who's technically, well, literally been stabbed in the back so far from what we've seen of the trailers.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, that. Everyone's kind of a wild card in that respect. There's so many things on the table here that could lead to something quite special. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy that we're getting a continuation to the story because I've said it before. I'm not sure if you guys agree with it or people viewing this well. I kind of felt like the ending of 11 was very unfulfilling. It was very open-ended. And I know like some people are okay with it, but it was so ambiguous that I was kind of like, I wanted more and I didn't get it.
Oh, for sure. Mortal Kombat to me has always ended in such a way where you could speculate as to the future. Whereas with 11, there was no possible speculation. All you could say was, well, time has been rebooted. It's up to NRS with what they choose to do. Mm-hmm. But now at least it has the possibility of ending in a way where we could predict future.
I think we're going to end up getting the same ending, but it's going to be, this is like a side story leading up to that final point where Liu Kang restarts everything.
I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. Seeing Shang get a win would be awesome.
Because he's a fairly old individual now. If he was able to get like this big win as his character one last time, you know, I thought it'd be really, really cool for him. But
definitely.
I want to see what the future has.
We might actually see a fight between Crown Shang versus God Liu Kang.
That'd be awesome.
That would be pretty awesome, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it, man. There's so many possibilities on the table now, and that honestly, that's what I feel really happy about because I felt so deprived of things to say at the end of Mortal Kombat 11, and now this trailer's come out and it's given me so much information. I'm like riding this high of what can happen.
It's cool to see Shang Tsung as, I mean, we're talking about him getting the win and we're assuming he's the villain. Now, yes, obviously it's Shang Tsung. He's always going to be the snake, but it's cool to see him in a sort of hero role.
Yeah. It's like we said earlier, the whole Suicide Squad type of thing. It's like, you know, it's these are all kind of characters who've had a reputation for being rather twisted individuals. So seeing them all work and cooperate for the greater good is what ultimately is interesting.
And I'm glad they're also not keeping it constrained to only those characters. Like we've seen already, like through their story mode previews, Baraka and Aaron Black getting involved. Mm-hmm. And so it's not going to be like it's separate story that doesn't touch on the other characters. Like we've seen Katana in there. No Melina, but
oh man, you've just made the entirety of Twitter upset.
Melina confirmed.
Oh, God bless.
Right now, from what we've seen of the Aftermath story, we have this Suicide Squad going either back in time or to the same time or something, a time in which apparently Kitana is Khan.
Mm-hmm.
How does this happen if technically time has actually stopped? When
it's been erased, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember what I said earlier about time travel not really making sense, but being able to wield and bend. Unfortunately, like at this, because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, this technically shouldn't be happening. So the way how I've tried to decipher it and kind of make sense of it is that they've kind of altered how they've established their time travel. So time travel, we can see it as one cohesive singular line up until the end of Armageddon. With that, it goes all the way back in MK9. It goes all the way back to the very beginning. But of course, as things go, it splinters and it butterflies. So because of that, you could always see as the inclusion of new characters a fragment of the butterfly effect of what's happened. Oh yeah, so now we're up to a point in Mortal Kombat 11 where, you know, Liu Kang's Keeper of the Hourglass, and time has basically been erased. So that entire timeline's now gone. At least that's what it says on paper. I think the Hourglass itself, since we see Liu Kang use it, is what is the conduit for where time exists. So by him sending them back in time, it restores that part of the timeline. But considering the time gap, because of course we do see them refer to Katana as Khan, that we must be at a point in time that's somewhat parallel to that of the current timeline, possibly due to its own splintered effects that exist. Maybe it's going off in its own direction, because of course we do see, present time Jax, Cetrion fighting Shang Tsung and Fujin on the island where, was it, MK9 Jax and Jackie were to pick up the helmet of Kronika. So I believe that this is a parallel timeline to that, and that's going to kind of splinter in and work with it, because remember as well, gods aren't affected by time travel. So Kronika should technically still be alive, as well as Cetrion. At least that would be in the other, like a parallel timeline to that of the current one, because they would be dead still.
So we're getting a sort of Avengers Endgame sort of playthrough.
Yeah, like I said, just time travel doesn't really make sense. You got to really kind of mess about with other influences from sources of media to try and make something of it. But it's ultimately going to come down to how it's going to all pan out. I don't really know how it's going to work, because time travel has never made sense ever. It always changes. It can only be good from time to time, but I'm hoping that this is something quite special and an interesting conclusion or cliffhanger to what will lead up to maybe the next game of DLC.
It'll be interesting to see too if Kronika recognizes the fact that she's been beaten and all these people that she has locked up are all of a sudden showing up.
Exactly. Could lead some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. Definitely. I mean, we'll see what it is when we get it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the main, my main motivation to keep playing MK11 is to play Aftermath's story. That's the big selling point for me. I love Fujin, but the story to me is what's ultimately selling me on it.
That's always been me with Mortal Kombat anyway. It's always been the story. Although I must say, Fujin's gameplay, I am ready.
It does look fun.
Certain fans have been asking for this for a while. I myself have not cared too much, but we do have Nightwolf and Eren finally getting that fight that people have been asking for.
I am intrigued to see how that one all turns out. We got that really cool snippet of the Tomahawk splitting the bullet in half.
Yes.
So I want to see what they're going to do with this and how they're going to do it. This is one of my favorite aspects, and I mean, mad props to NRS for doing it. But not only giving us extra story DLC, but giving the DLC characters their own story, essentially.
Yes.
Very
happy to see that.
It's one of the really sad things. I feel like all of us were really hoping for it when we saw Combat Pack 2 for MKX, when Quan Chi and Omak are walking in the forest and they get attacked by Leatherface. And all of us were like, oh, is this more story stuff and blah, blah, blah. And now we're actually getting it. So I think this is really neat. I think this is a really good way of keeping people in and giving the characters that everyone have been waiting for that limelight that they didn't get in the base game. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's like Tremor and Tanya would have... Tanya was in the story, to be fair, but Tremor and Triborg, for example, would have really benefited from it in Mortal Kombat X.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's good to see happening here. And as we've said already, we can find out whether or not they're actually continuing with the retcon on Sindel or retconning the retcon itself.
Yeah, this gives them some sort of canon for all these guest characters that we're getting, special characters.
Yeah, it's going to be really good.
I'm actually hoping the guest characters are not included within the story.
Oh, you don't want to see Robocop?
I thought we agreed on, was it previous episode with the fourth snake, that it was Robocop.
Now, we joked about that, but there are a lot of supposed rumors and leaks right now that we might actually get Rambo, and if we do, I'm going to feel really dumb for making fun of that rumor so much.
I don't want to say I'd prefer Jackie.
But I prefer Jackie.
Actually, you know what? I take. It's difficult.
I feel like that's choosing between a giant burning car or a giant burning truck. Both are on fire. It's not really good. It's not like you can drive them. You've got to make the best of a terrible situation, and it's which way do you want to go out in style?
I actually have another theory too. So we know that we are going to be getting Fujin and Shang Tsung, and that they were locked up by Kronika, but now that she's dead, they've been freed. I think we might be able to see Dark Raiden show up too.
Oh, I hope you're right.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge Dark Raiden fan, so to see him show back up and even just a small cameo, and he's like, "You guys do what you want. I'm out."
I mean, you're right. I didn't think about it from this perspective, but if he is part of Liu Kang now, then technically he could still exist in the sort of multiple timeline problem that we've had, right? Because the entire point was that everybody had sort of two selves, but the gods could not have more than one of themselves. Mm-hmm. But if Raiden is part of Liu, then firstly, does that allow Liu Kang to exist in this new timeline? And then secondly, does that mean Dark Raiden comes up?
Yeah, it's really weird because it seems like they're throwing off like a paradox parallel timeline sort of thing. It's really weird. It's because like time travel is a very, very strange thing, especially when you write it down on paper. And because it does, it's a bit of fiction, you can kind of bend and weave it as you wish, but it's hard to kind of keep it up consistently. And I don't know. I don't know. It gets very confusing. It gets very, very confusing if you actually try to think about it properly. I'm just kind of like, I'm just going to go over the story and just see how this works.
Yeah.
So do you guys think Fujin will end up replacing Raiden in future games, kind of how the original plan was, or is this a one-shot for the character?
I genuinely hope so. I feel like this could be a really good way of propelling the character to the position he should have been in the original timeline. Mm-hmm. And this can essentially help pave way to new stories. Because like I like the original timeline, but the thing is, to me, a lot of those ideas have either been cooked and have been done. And if I want to see them again, I'll either one, play the original game for it, or two, want to see a completely different reimagined interpretation of it. Because I feel like that is refreshing and it's new. Because no one ever wants to watch a rebooted film scene for scene, step for step. Because it's nothing. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. I want something that's interesting.
I mean, I also hope that Fujin takes over, but I'm worried that considering Liu Kang's sort of new god role, he might be the one to actually replace Raiden instead, as we all assumed at the end of MK11. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how that works. But also, one thing that we have had on Fujin since, before Aftermath was revealed, was that Frost and Cetrion had apparently frozen and or killed him.
Yeah.
Now, what worries me is that it's not that they're talking about Fujin in the past, but that these introductions were actually alluding to Aftermath.
Oh, interesting.
So that Fujin possibly dies in the story.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a possibility, but we also must take one huge factor into account. And as all long-time Mortal Kombat fans, I'm pretty sure we kind of get this. Dying is just a flesh wound. It's a flesh wound.
So true.
It's like, that meme of literally like that tank that's leaking water, and you get that guy and he just slaps like the Band-Aid on it. That's literally death in the Mortal Kombat universe. Just slap a Band-Aid on it. You're fine. I mean, Baraka died in X and he came back in 11 like that. So I was kind of like, it's fine. He'll be back.
Which I always love seeing used as an argument for why Melina doesn't return. But I'm not one of those people who thinks like, give me Melina. No, I'm not. But what I do like is logic. And if people are saying, well, Melina's dead, so she can't return, get over it. Baraka was dead too, guys.
Yeah.
It's Mortal Kombat. Everybody dies.
I feel like we just aren't going to get Melina for this game because I feel like if you want to play all three female ninjas in the last Mortal Kombat game, just play MK9. Since X, what was it? We had 2 female ninjas, and then here we have 2 female ninjas as well. 3 if we're including Scarlet, but she's kind of her own thing in that respect. If you want to play it, just play MK9. Like, trust me, that's the best way. If you want the best of everything, just play that one. It's a good game.
Yeah,
it's broken as hell, but it's fun.
Really needs to be remastered, just so we can have it on latest platforms. Actually,
yeah, I'd love to have it be remastered and rebalanced. Because dear God, is that game broken?
Cyrax, Cabal,
Johnny, Sonya. Oh my God.
It's actually no longer available for purchase on Steam.
Yeah.
They had to pull it because of Freddy Krueger rights, I believe.
Oh, is that the reason?
It's went back recently to the Craven estate. So Wes Craven basically has it. But what I find really strange about it, with the licensing going back to Craven Estate, is that other games like Dead by Daylight haven't been affected, but Mortal Kombat 9 has.
It might be more of a
I don't know.
just trying to save anything from happening.
Yeah, it may be like it may have been like a limited time deal. Because of course, with guest characters, they are allowed to use them within a certain particular time frame. It's not like they go to them and then they make the deal with them. Like they're given the rights for it for a temporary amount of time, and they have to use it within that time frame. If not, they either, I presume, they have to renew it or it just expires. Which leads into the whole really crazy topic with Ash Williams that's been going on for the last year now.
Ah, yes.
Which is it is why I know a lot of people have been saying as well. It's like he was cut from KP1. Is also why there's only the 3 characters for Aftermath and stuff like that. And even Campbell, I think about a week and a half ago, says that he hasn't got a notification from his his manager, that would let him know what had happened. And he said this may be a sort of thing that's sort of issue and problem that's going on with licensing, which will ultimately determine it. So I think it's definitely one of those things as to why he actually isn't in the game.
For sure, I think it's licensing.
It brings up a good question too. Is there going to be a Combat Pack 3? And if so, will we get more story mode after Aftermath? I mean, how long are they going to keep doing Mortal Kombat 11?
That's the interesting thing, because I honestly, for the god, like, I have no idea how it's gonna pan out. Like, I'm all up for more Mortal Kombat. It'll be really good. And we're on like at the brink of next gen as well. So it would kind of make sense for them to keep supporting the game up until, like, you know, next gen is available. But I don't know. It's really odd to me. It's really, really odd to me because NRS haven't broken out of their 2-year annual cycle. I'm yet to see any reason as to why they break the 2-year annual cycle, because it could very much be a licensing
Well, they
thing.
did say at the reveal that they would like to change that up, actually.
Yeah.
I do remember, I think it was Ed Boon himself saying that we've tried to stick to a 2-year sort of schedule between both games. However, we want to change things up and try and make this the longest supported game so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is true. I remember him saying that, but we got to take into account as well that they're under management of Warner. And it's ultimately Warner that's going to kind of tell them what they can and they can't do up to a certain extent, how things go. The thing is, like, I'd probably say right now, not right now as you speak because of everything going on, but Injustice 3 is pretty much in the pipeline and probably in, like, extremely early development.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they've confirmed development on that, I think, actually.
There you go.
Already.
Yeah, if it's on the table, then we know they're working on something. Because the thing is, NRS aren't a huge, big dev team. It's a few selected individuals that are all very, very talented. So to have one team work on 2 different games could effectively, like, really mess up their plans and their schedules. So I don't really know how it's all going to kind of pan out. I just hope that they do well for both franchises, but also try to deliver the best of what they can without damaging them.
Yes, I'm with you on that. I really do hope they manage to find a happy balance between the two. One thing I did want to bring up, though, regarding Aftermath is, honestly, the price. I'm a bit... Because it comes down to the future. As you just mentioned, we don't know what's happening now. We have... Firstly, Phantom just said that he doesn't know about any Combat Pack 3. Mm-hmm. Now, my first response to that would be, well, are we considering Aftermath Combat Pack 2 in the first place? Because they've not advertised it as such. And does that mean that we're getting combat packs in the future or further expansions if we get anything in the future? And then secondly, how much comes with it?
Yeah, no, it's interesting in that respect, because I do think, I honestly don't think the price tag is too bad for the most part, because if you put it like this, it's 3 DLC characters and 3 skin packs, with the additional 3 amount of story. And I think each DLC character is like $6 each? I'm pretty sure.
$6 each, yeah.
So that comes out to about 18. If we're going like 4 with each skin, that's like $12, so that's 30. And then you got the extra free story mode as well. So I wouldn't say it's too bad. I don't think the pricing of it is too out there. But I can see why a lot of people were shocked. Like, I don't mind it. I feel like if anyone supports or enjoys a game enough, they'll fork out whatever money they wish to, like, buy the expansion. But I don't think it's too bad. But considering it's like one of my favorite games is like The Witcher 3, I'm a massive fan of that. And
that's my exact example I was going to bring up.
Like the amount of content that was put in Blood and Wine and Heart of Stone, and the amount of hours that was in that to me, it's immaculate and the peak of, what DLC gaming should be.
Exactly.
So to me, I kind of get that answer 110%. 110%. I don't feel like the price tag is too bad.
Maybe I should elaborate. Okay, so I think that, firstly, I agree with you that it's not too bad for what it is. That's okay, fine. That's completely understandable. However, the biggest part that gets to me, myself, as a Mortal Kombat 11 player, I forked out the 100 on the premium edition. I'm now being expected to go, what is it, £40, £35 on the...
It's £35.
Expansion.
Yeah.
35, yeah. So Aftermath. I want to make sure I'm giving proper figures. So that comes to 135, assuming I pre-order and don't wait for a sale because, it's Mortal Kombat. I want to support it. It's my favorite series.
And you get those free skins.
And yeah, those free, but yeah, skins. I would like to say, by the way, I do like that we're getting free stages, free friendships, etc.
Yeah,
that's great. That's nice to see. But what worries me is that as a day one player of Mortal Kombat 11, a long-time Mortal Kombat fan for pretty much my entire life, I'm spending now 135 compared to new players who can get it for less than half the price.
Yeah, so if I actually decide to go ahead and buy it for the Switch, and I can get Mortal Kombat 11 with Aftermath for $60 US, and I was like, well, that's a lot cheaper than I'm paying on my other systems, so...
Yeah.
But it's definitely a problem with, I guess, buying a game on release as well, because it's definitely not anyone else's fault. It's just like a massive price drop. And it's why there's always the mentality and the part of the fan base that straight up and understandably so doesn't buy an NRS game till about a year and a half in, where the Game of the Year editions come out and all the content's there. And it's at a far cheaper price than it was on release. So I don't know. It's a really weird one because I get that they need money to continue supporting the game and like keep funding it, but I don't know. It's a really weird one for me. It's a really weird
it's a difficult topic because I do want to support Mortal Kombat. As I said, it's my favorite series. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this podcast right now if it wasn't, right?
I feel like it's measuring your fandom with your wallet.
Yes, exactly.
Because as much as I like games like, for example, I've been getting into the series recently and I've been enjoying it. I've been playing the Assassin's Creed games in my free time and I've been enjoying the base games, but do I like them enough to fork out the extra money to purchase the DLC on top of the original price tag? And that's usually a no in some respects. I feel like your fandom's measured by your wallet and how much you enjoy it. Like, unfortunately, there are people who don't really understand the lengths and limits of doing that, which is why, you get amazing trash can fire games like FIFA every year. But it's just kind of like understanding and appreciating, because I don't mind forking out extra money if I know it goes to the developers to help them make the game and add extra content to it. So I don't know. It's a really, really weird one to talk about because there's so many things you have to take into consideration on the table.
Oh, for sure.
And there's a lot of obscure stuff that we unfortunately don't know about and can only kind of predict.
I mean, the way things are going, I will probably be forking out that cash. I'm honestly surprised I haven't done it yet. I'm just like thinking to myself, but the price, but the game, but the price, but the game,
No, I understand that. 110%.
All right, so history behind the warrior. Where can our listeners find you?
So you should be able to find me on Twitter at HBWarrior. And if you wish to find out my YouTube channel, it should be History Behind the Warriors. It's very, very easy to get to, luckily. But that's all forms of social media I do have. I do have an Instagram that I never use. I kind of like lie low for the most part. So if you want to follow me there, the best way of getting in contact with me is definitely Twitter.
We'll be linking your channels in the actual description of the video.
Thank you.
For any listeners who want to check that out.
And before we let you go, tell us, what is your favorite finisher, like your favorite fatality or brutality?
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys like two of them. One because it's ironically hilarious, and one because I genuinely like it. I feel like this is on everyone's like list of just, it's so awful, it's funny. And that it's always, you guys know what I'm gonna say. It's a neck stretch.
Yeah,
it is so dumb. It's amazing. Like the actual mindset to make that is incredible. So I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm all for this. I am all for this. But outside of that, probably my favorite fatality, at least when it comes to memory, and because I saw this and like I gagged a little bit, was Takeda's fatality in MKX, where he shoots the ripcord in your mouth, ignites all the like the chains, not the chain, like the blades on the ripcord, and then yanks it out. And the thing is, it's not like a clean pull. He has to like yank it out and then yank it out again because it's not completely out of it just yet. And I'm just kind of like, that's awesome. That is so good.
That's sick.
That is a great fatality.
It's so good. It's so good. I miss Takeda, man.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Hashtag Takeda for Combat Pack 3. All right, so we'd like to thank all of our listeners for stopping by, and thank you very much, History Behind the Warrior, for joining us on this episode. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Really good to have you on with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. It was lovely coming in, having this chat. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to my terrible joke. So, yeah, guys, thank you for having me on. I was glad we could have this chat about Mortal Kombat, and yeah, we'll definitely talk again in the future, man.
We were glad to have you. Also, special thanks to Uppercut Editions for their continued support. You can find them at Encyclopedia MK on Twitter and the Mortal Kombat Encyclopedia Project on Facebook. Realm Kast is a bi-weekly podcast. You can find Yanni and myself, Phantom, on the Mortal Kombat group on Facebook, as well as Yanni on Mortal Kombat Meme Realm, which now has an Instagram at Mortal Kombat Meme Realm. You can catch up to all episodes of the podcast on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, and Spotify.
You're out of time.